The reason this works is because memory has a very fast decay curve. This means that something that you learn is forgotten relatively quickly in a pretty short period of time. And if you're able to consolidate and re-encode that information before it decays, it's strengthened and it decays more slowly afterwards. So let's say that you spent 1 hour learning something on a Monday, but you don't review it again until the next Monday. Well, there's been a week gap, and if you've forgotten, let's say 50 to 70% of it, then you now need to spend, let's say, another hour or 45 minutes relearning and re-remembering the stuff that you already forgot. So now for that 1 hour material, you've spent almost 2 hours to study it. Whereas if you use the 24-hour rule, you might spend 1 hour learning it on the Monday, and then on the Tuesday, you review it again. Now, because you've only forgotten 10% of it since then, you only need 5-10 minutes to plug those gaps. So now when it comes to next Monday, instead of having forgotten 50 to 70% of it, you might have only forgotten 20% of it. But obviously this accumulates. So you're not just learning 1 hour on a Monday, you're learning like 3 hours on Monday, and then 3 hours on Tuesday, and then 3 hours on Wednesday. So if the future version of you always needs to spend another 1 or 2 hours to relearn the things that you always forgot, you're just going to get progressively further and further behind and more overwhelmed. Now, one thing I will say is that the value of the 24-hour rule and how much it helps with your memory and how much time it saves you in the long run strongly depends on the way that you learned it in the first place. If you learned it really terribly, you didn't follow any of the other tips that I've given, and all you do is the 24-hour rule, after a week, you will still have forgotten 50 to 70% of it. If that's the situation, the problem is not how often you're reviewing it. The problem is how you're actually trying to put it into your memory in the first place. Number 14, write notes by topics, not by lectures. Imagine you're building a house, but you can only build it one section at a time. Like you start with a master bedroom and then you just build it like completely. The walls, you do the paint, like it's completed, but like the entire rest of the house isn't there. And then you go and build the kitchen and you complete that. And then after each of these segments is completed, then you try to like bring them together and like close them together. And maybe you realize like you built the kitchen in the wrong place. You got to like relocate the entire kitchen, and then everything breaks and shatters, and you know, it's a complete mess.